Okay, hello and welcome to another Comfy UI tutorial. Today I'm going to be covering the canvas node, and I'm going to be going a little bit deeper than you may have seen some other tutorials going, where I'm going to explain the controls. I'm going to explain each and every part of the actual tab itself, the tool set, and I'm going to explain some of the other nodes that it actually brings into your workflow, because most tutorials I've seen covering this only cover the one node and not the fact that there are actually two nodes that come with this. So first off, let's talk about the second part of this. So if you double click and bring up search and go canvas, it's going to bring up this one, which is the one that we have there, the edit in another tab. And that's the main one that people have shown you how to use. But there is a second one which does not come up under search. If we right click add node and go to image, there's a second one just down here where the two are located. And this one will send images to this one, which it performs the second part of it. It's the input component of this particular node. So if we send it, we can send it images of a higher resolution. We can send it images of different scales and sizes and that kind of stuff, which allows you to actually modify the images in the actual tab so that you can actually do some better image to image stuff and maybe make adjustments to your image to images as well without doing anything too complex. In case you're wondering how to actually access images that you already have, for example, in this. So I'll show you how to make use of this now. So you can edit it by simply going edit, and it will open a new window. Now the new window could be in a tab that already exists, or it could be in a window that you have floating around somewhere. So keep an eye out in case it has ended up in the wrong place. So you may have to go hunting for it if it's been funny, but it should pop up on top of things anyway. But where you can lose track of it pretty easily. So yes, I really should change the taskbar. Okay, so right, here we go. How to actually navigate the controls and how to navigate the interface of the tab. So first of all, you will be presented with this particular canvas here, which is it's like its own selectable area. And if you hold down the middle mouse button and drag it around, you can manipulate it in such a way as that you can access certain areas of it. You can also scroll in and out. Now, if you are not great with computers or have not really used digital programs too much before, you may be unaware of the fact that most scroll wheels these days are also a mouse button. If you click down on it and feel it click, it is actually working. If not, you'll just have a more basic mouse, in which case you may have to be using this method in order to actually navigate this. So if you move your mouse to an area of the canvas and zoom in on it like so with the scroll wheel, you can actually navigate this as well in a different way. It's not easy, it's a little bit of a learning process, but if you do have a bad, like I say bad mouse, but a more basic mouse, that is how you would do it. All right. The next component is over here. If we look at this, these are the different layers for working with images. The canvas. If you look at here, we have the base layer, and this base layer usually comes as a solid white or a solid color. It's a good idea to make sure this stays a fully solid color and don't use the eraser on this, because it will cause your image to have transparencies, and you may not want transparency because transparency can cause issues with certain nodes. So be aware of that. All right, so now each layer additionally has its own opacity settings. It has its own color blending settings as well over here. So if I draw on this layer, I go like so, and I draw a different layer, which is red. We can see that if I change the opacity of the, it does this kind of stuff. If I change the style of blending, I can change how it's blending with the other layers as well. Additionally to that, I can then drag these up and down, so I can change which one is the topmost as well, which is good. Which is really good if you're trying to make kind of images and you need to work on different parts of it. Now we have one more thing, which is the eyeball. I can turn layers off that I don't want to be using as well, which is good if you are doing maybe animation or something like this, because you can potentially create animations using this process. Currently there's no manipulation, translation controls for manipulating layers, unfortunately. I wish there was, then we could do animation like really easily, but I digress. So that is the layer controls. There's also a plus here where I can add layers, and a bin here where I can delete the currently selected layer. If there's no selected layer, it's not going to delete it. And additionally, if there's no selected layer, you can't draw here as well. So keep an eye, make sure you have a layer selected. All right, up here we have on the right hand top corner, we have the clear current selected layer button, which is this X. We have the undo and redo controls as well. So if we undo stuff, we can redo stuff as well. This includes stuff like changing layers, moving layers, adjusting stuff outside of the images, not just pixels that this will undo. Now this section up here is devoted to symmetry stuff. So if you're doing textures or you want to make art that requires some kind of symmetry, you can do symmetry stuff over here. That kind of thing. And all of these have different variations of the tool. So and they can be triggered in combination with each other as well to produce different kinds of symmetry. Now, the pen tool over here is your main drawing tool. It's how you would draw most of the time with this. As you can change the size of it over here from small to large. And you know, it's a pretty comprehensive little brush tool. It doesn't have blurring of the edges, unfortunately, which I wish it did have. And if you hold the right button down, it will draw with the second color, which is over here, and the left button draws with the primary color over here. And you can select colors over here in the swatches. The other option you can do is if you click these colors, you can directly access the color picker, which allows you to use custom colors and not just the ones selected over here. In case you were wondering about that, you can actually do different colors. Additionally to that, there is these buttons up here. So this button here is the eraser tool. It uses the same size set here, so you should be able to delete easily, like so. And this button here is actually the pixel drawing tool. So if you are doing pixel art for whatever reason in this, you can actually draw individual pixels at 100% opacity of whatever color you have selected in the same way that the paintbrush tool works. Next to it is an eraser which does the exact same thing. It deletes pixels specifically. And we have the color pick, which allows us to pick certain colors and then paint with them. Now those are the basic painting and manipulation of the canvas kind of tools. And there's one more section to it, which is just up here. And this governs how the node behaves in the workflow. So if we over here, the default is going to be something like add layer if size matches. Now what that means is that if we import an image using that other node out here, if we import it using this send to editor node, it will attempt to bring in the image, and if it is not the correct size, it will put it next to it as a separate image. It won't try and import it into the current image if it's the wrong size, because it won't crop it, it won't stretch it or anything like that. It just brings it in separately. And it'll bring it in unselected so that it's not the active thing being sent to the node. And I've just realized I haven't mentioned that. So this button here actually tells the node in your workflow which one of these images you should be sending to the live update thing as well. Be aware of that. In case you're wondering, that does. So when you do this with it the wrong size for the canvas, it will actually bring it in and it will be It won't be live, so you won't see it change and it'll look like you haven't done anything, but it is there. It just needs to have this ticked, make it work. Additionally, there is the create new image option, which means you bring it in, it'll just create a new image like that, and it will be the active image, so that it's not trying to put it into something which you've edited. And we have ignore, which we can set it to if we've decided we don't want to bring information in from outside, but maybe we did want to bring it in earlier and we don't want to rewire the entire workflow to disable the node which is sending that information. So that's roughly how to use the canvas node. I'll show you some of the quirks of it in operation in the actual workflow. So by default, it will give you a white image, obviously. And every time it's run, it'll attempt to send anything from this send to editor tab. However, it will not run this little loop here unless I change this image. If this image is an image which has been used before or has, I've imported and it hasn't actually gone across, or I've deleted it from here or whatever, this is going to break on you. So be aware that this section is kind of finicky, and it's not necessarily Canvas's fault. It's actually the ComfyUI workflow's fault and the way that it handles changes to the workflow. It doesn't want to it doesn't want to run certain parts of your workflow unless you change them. And the only setting you can change on the load image node, unfortunately, is the image to be loaded. So if that doesn't change, then it will not. It will send right at the last possible. It'll be sending from here. It'll be sending this. It doesn't actually go and retrieve it. It's just sending it from cache. If that makes any sense. Basically, this will mess up on you if you try and certain things. If you think about it that way. Now, if we run this, it should send it into this, but I've currently set this up to ignore mode. So as you can see, it's not actually sent the node to my canvas. If I set this to add layer, the size won't match. So if I run this, it shouldn't become active. Okay, it's run, but it hasn't become active. And if we go over here, it hasn't appeared, which is unfortunate because that was the entire thing of this. So if I change this to an image that I haven't used before, it should update. That's the error I was talking about. I used that image before while doing this. If we run it now, and it's activated that, so there we go. So this has been sent to the to this canvas. But as you can see, it's because it's the same size, but it's not the right size in order to go into this. It's just put it to the side as a separate kind of image. Now if we click this, it will now be sent as the live. Go over here. It's now the live image. So there's a couple of quirks to do with how it functions. As long as you can wrap your head around those, you can get this stuff working. Just remember that once an image has been sent with this, you may have to rename or copy files in order to make it rerun this process, or delete this load image and load a new node. Because unfortunately, it's one of the quirks of ComfyUI that this kind of stuff happens. Now, if we are doing this with the create new image option, it does something different again. So bear with me, I'm just grouping it. Okay, relatively safe image. Okay, right. Q prompt, it should send immediately and be updated. If you have create image, it becomes the active image straight away. And you'll notice that these are different resolutions to this base one as well. No cropping, no blending, no stuff after the image node required. It just kind of works. So that's basically how you use the canvas nodes. Hopefully that'll be useful to some of you. Maybe it'll help some of you learn a little bit more about the canvas nodes and kind of demystify it a little bit more. Anyway, thanks for watching.